All right. The other topic today is publishing academic research. So if you are going to present at a conference or publish the results, then you need to submit to the IRB and get that approval. Once you have that approval, you do your study, then you think about publishing. And I want you to remember, publishing in academia is a marathon, not a sprint. All right. Those who succeed are persistent. They're not better writers than you. They're not better researchers than you. They didn't have a better study than you. They're just persistent. That is how you get published in academia. So here are the steps. The first step is to choose a journal. And one of the ways I do that is I go straight to my reference list. Where are my references? Do I see a pattern? Is there a journal that comes up often? And if so, then I'm obviously already engaging in conversation with this journal and the readership of this journal. So that makes a great place to submit. The other thing would be, okay, I want to present at this conference. Then is there a journal associated with that conference and or association? What I like about that is that I get to kind of test out my paper on that conference audience, kind of see what questions they have, what they really resonated with, what feedback even they might have before submitting. So those are two ways that I choose a journal to submit to. The other thing I think about is how, yeah, go
That's a
ahead,
quick
Robin.
question. So when you say a journal is associated with a conference, do you mean like if there's like a NASPA conference, like NASPA, the professional organization, would have its own I mean, they do have some sort of publication, but I don't know if it's like an academic journal. But do some
So
conferences have academic journals?
some conferences publish the proceedings from that journal. Some organizations have a journal that you can only submit to if you presented at the conference. And then sometimes it's an association that has a conference and has a journal, but the journal isn't necessarily associated with the conference, but that's still the same people, right? The people who read that journal are the same people that were at that conference. A journal that is associated with a professional association helps give that journal some credibility. There's something out there called predatory journals. Predatory journals are not real. So one way to tell if a journal is real or not is it associated with a professional organization that you know and trust? If that professional organization has a conference that you go to that conference and you learn a lot at that conference and it's a good conference, then their journal is probably good too. So I answered your question and gave more information there. Okay. The reason it's important to choose your journal early is because different journals have different guidelines, and you may as well write to those guidelines. So some journals allow 12,000 words, some only allow 5,000 words. That's important to know. Like if you have a target journal and they only allow 5,000 words, then it's important to know that going into it. If you're thinking about turning your dissertation into a publication, then you probably have one 12,000 word research article, or you might have two 5,000 word research articles where you'd have to kind of split it. There might be other guidelines. For instance, if they have an international readership, they might be particular in their guidelines about talking about the international transferability or generalizability at the international level. So every journal is going to have a website, and on their website, they are going to have their submission guidelines. So this is my running list of journals. I Um, oh, I wanted to go to a specific one. Sorry. Sorry for the scrolling. Okay, so this one, teaching and teacher education, I'm submitting to right now. This journal is not associated with a professional organization, but I know that it's a good journal because I've had papers rejected from them before. So that's one way I know. Because they're not just accepting everything because they haven't accepted everything I have written. I also look at the editorial board and I'm like, okay, that's a really well-respected university, Stanford University. I don't know all of the universities, but if I do know the university, that, is helpful. This is the about, but what I need is this. It's called Guide for Authors. That is what I'm following. So it's going to tell me the scope. It's going to tell me whether I'm supposed to use American or British, or if I just need to be consistent. It's going to tell me that it's double anonymized review. That's good. That's the scientific standard. So that's good. It's going to tell me a lot, but I need to read that. Then submit my article. There's going to be a submission system. You have to create a login. If you don't have an ORCID, create one, because then you can just log in via that every time. Submit a new manuscript. It's going to walk you through everything. I'm going to click this one because it's going to show you. I'm not ready, but I'm going to pretend I am. Do you notice that that was submitted in September 11th, 2025? That's what I mean by a marathon, not a sprint. So this is a research paper. Proceed. You have to upload the title page. On the author guidelines, it says what goes on the title page. This one needed the manuscript blinded or anonymized. Sometimes we use the word masked now because we don't want to call on the language of disability. So people are switching from blinded to either anonymized or masked. But this one actually wanted an unblinded manuscript too. So we have to submit both. This one wanted the figures separate, but the tables embedded. Every single journal is different. Some want each table uploaded separately. Some want each figure uploaded separately. Some want them all embedded. Some want them all at the end. Some want the tables and the manuscript as .doc or docx. Some don't, it doesn't matter, so there's all these kinds of logistical things. It typically takes me 3 hours to submit a manuscript just to get through all these different kinds of things. This one wanted a declaration of interest, so that conflict of interest we had to write on a Word doc. We have no conflict of interest, and then upload that document. And they wanted highlights, which were a bullet pointed abstract in addition to the abstract. So these were all uploads. Then once I uploaded all of those, it might not, then there's more questions. So I'm actually writing this with authors from the Middle East, and that's the field site. There's classifications. These are within their system. So that's different than keywords you come up with. So we had to add classifications. And then we have to answer all these questions. Yes, we used APA. Yes, we had IRB. Yes, all funding was acknowledged. We had an acknowledgement on our title page. We had acknowledgement : and the funders. No, this hasn't been shared online. No, this isn't this. Yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, yes, no. All these things, please check to confirm, right? All this stuff. And then, sometimes they call this comments to the editor. Sometimes they call it a cover letter. And when I'm first submitting, I will say, please find our submission titled and then the title. And then like a 1 sentence summary of the research, a 1 sentence, like this research is significant to your readers because like something kind of personal to their readership. And then we look forward to your feedback. I mean, I already have the highlights. I already have the abstract. I have, like, I don't feel like I need to rewrite everything. In this case, this is a revision. So we said we have completed major revisions that address the reviewers and editors' concerns. We outlined the revisions in the response to reviewers' document attached as a file. So we made a table. And so every comment we then responded to line by line. So then you can see we attached it, so it wasn't here, but. And then there's the more, there's the abstract. Here's the keywords separated by a comma, blah, blah, blah. Okay.
How
Then
many
you build your
publish-
PB.
Dr. Kurov, how many articles do you publish a year?
The goal in academia as a tenured professor is 2 to 3 a year.
Okay.
But I typically have done 5 to 6 a year. Not all are like tier 1, first or second author, but I do a lot of collaboration. So
That's
And
wild.
you might have said this, but you're not supposed to, at least from what I've been told or understand, have like the same thing be submitted like out at the same time to different people.
that's right. That's right. So that's one of those check marks that I kind of just rushed through, but it'll say, is this up for review anywhere else? And the answer is no, because if you say yes, then you're desk rejected. So
Yeah.
after submission, it goes to the editor's desk, and they are looking, so the editorship is looking to see, does it match the aim or scope of the journal? Did you follow the author guidelines? And did you like click the right yeses or nos? So if you say this is under consideration somewhere else, then you'll be desk rejected.
So if these take like a year and then they say
Uh-huh.
no, then you like start over and then all your stuff is a year older. Is that ever an issue?
An issue to whom? So an issue to me, Shay? Yes, I hate it. An issue to my committee when they're looking at my promotion materials? No, that's how it is. It is what it is, and people know that is what it is. Yes, so it's actually the same with conferences. You're not supposed to present the same thing at more than one conference, right? And so one of the things I look for when choosing a journal, and they're starting to publish this now, is the amount of days it takes for that desk review, and then the number of days out for review. So in my running list of journals, I take notes, and I was like, this took forever. So there's a journal, it's really highly respected. It's a perfect match for my work, but they take, in my experience, it took so long to get through the process. I haven't resubmitted to that. And I'm looking to see if the editorship will change. If the editorship changes, then perhaps that timeline will change also. On the other hand, there's a journal that was so fast and still good. Like the reviewer comments were still exceptionally high quality. The editors were very professional, and like I'll submit to them every day because I know it'll be quick. And I've had several rejections from them, and I'm okay with that because it was a day later and it wasn't, so I kind of find those journals that work for me. And if I need to get something out because it is time sensitive, like the science of reading, like it was a big thing, I needed to get that out, then I went to that fast journal. But if it's like this study took me 3 years of my life, then I want it to be in that #1 journal, even if it takes 3 years to get to publication. So, yeah.
I've heard of some journals in different fields actually requiring like payment. Um, that like that was really shocking to me
Mhm.
in like different like STEM fields. In your
Yes.
experience, what has that been?
Yes. So there's two categories of journals: predatory journals and good journals. Predatory journals are often pay pay to play, pay to publish only, and that's the only option. And I don't do that at all. Within the good journals, then there are categories. Within the good journals, there is a discussion right now about accessibility. We have a research to practice gap. We can't address that gap if our articles are behind paywalls that the public cannot access. So one strategy to get one strategy is, instead of the readers paying to access the articles, which is the subscription fee, so the readers pay to read it, is switching that to the author. The authors pay to publish it. Sounds great on paper, right? Like, it's like, oh yeah, that makes sense on paper, but we're people too. Researchers are people too. So when you do that, what you do is, people who can afford to self-publish, like I make enough, like let's say I make enough salary that I can actually use my own salary to publish, and let's just say I don't have a problem with that, then I could just publish all I want. Whereas someone else who is dependent on the funding coming from their institution, then they have to be in an institution who has enough funding to be able to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, because that's exactly what I was thinking, that it just becomes this inequity between institutions and then who's producing research and then how do you get out of that cycle.
Yeah. So what I like is that we still have both happening now. So we still have really highly respected journals. So like, just take predatory journals out of that. We're not talking about them anymore. But within the good journals, there's journals where you can publish and it's a good journal, it's a respectable journal, there's a great readership of that journal, and you as the author don't have to pay. And there's these other ones. And that are open to the public. And a lot of journals have now become hybrid in that they do both. So you can't, so that journal I just showed you, you can choose only for subscription. My research will only be available to subscribed readers, or I will pay for open access. And my suggestion to you all is, when you write a grant for your research, include that open access fee so that you have the best of both worlds. You aren't paying for it individually, but your practitioners and your policymakers have access to it. So let's say that here's a typical timeline. We submitted September 11th. We got our desk review. 12 days later, it went out to peer review. The reviewers, it's hard to get reviewers nowadays. And this journal will keep it in review until they get 4 reviews. Some journals, that fast journal, once they have 2 reviews in, they send it to you. So by the time we got 4, it was a major revise and resubmit. We did the major revise and resubmit. Okay, so September, October, November, December, January. The US went to war with the country where my co-authors were. So we asked for an extension because we weren't quite, so there were extenuating circumstances. They gave us the extension. So then we resubmitted it. Then it took 1 month turnaround for them to come back. And then they just have some minor things for us to do. And then with this journal, they'll be pretty fast from once we get those in to it being online. So all in, it'll be probably online before September. But that's a pretty typical timeline, yeah. Anticipate having 3 revise and resubmits for every article you submit. If you get a revise and resubmit, that is an invitation to resubmit. That is not a rejection. I know it can feel that way, but a revise and resubmit is what you want. That is what you want. Like that's your chance to make it better. If you get a reject, that's okay. There's another journal you can send it to. These journals have about a 15% acceptance rate, 10 to 20%, 15%. So if you're not getting rejected 5 times, then you're not sending them to high enough tiered journals.
When you resubmit, are the same reviewers reviewing, or is it different reviewers? And like then is it like a moving target of feedback?
The editor, so that's the difference between a high quality journal that in my list of journals, my notes are like, this was a good experience. A good experience for me is that I have the same managing editor. Typically there's an editorship which has like 2 editor-in-chief, 2 associate editors, and some graduate research assistants kind of thing. So if I'm working with the same either graduate research assistant or managing editor every time, I appreciate that because I feel like they have context around it. And if they send it back to the same reviewers, then that to me is a good experience and somebody that, you know, gets that had a good experience note in my list of journals. They cannot guarantee to you that it will be the same reviewers because something could happen. But you can look at those guidelines to see if it's at least their policy that they send it to the same reviewers first. Yeah. But even if it's new reviewers, the editors are following along. So the other thing that I really like is when editors will synthesize the reviewers' comments and because that kind of gives me that target that isn't a moving target. Because the other thing is one reviewer might say one thing and another reviewer say the opposite, right? And so you then as an author, just because a reviewer suggests something doesn't mean you have to do it. You have to consider it and then respond. So you can respond by saying, here's the justification for why we had it the way we had it. Thank you for your feedback. It prompted a discussion on our team and we decided this because blah, blah, blah. Like we think you're full of crap. No, we have kept this for this justification. And if you could cite a methodological source or something, that's great. The editor synthesis can help with those decisions too, because if the editor leaned one way or the other, that's helpful to know too. So once it gets to that, so you submit, it gets through the desk review, it goes out to review. Let's say you get a major revise and resubmit, then you get another major revise and resubmit, then you get minor revisions, then you get accept conditionally, then you get the proof. And the proof is like this is what's going into print. And once it's in print, you can't change it. So like make sure the comma is where the comma goes, make sure your name's spelled right, like all that kind of stuff. Make sure figure 1 is figure 1, figure 2 is figure 2. Like that's the kind of proof stage. And then once you approve that, it normally goes online first. So maybe it's put online in 2026, but it's not in the volume and issue until 2027. But it'll go online first. And once it's online, share that puppy, get the word out. Right. So that's the process.